Hi there. So good morning or afternoon for our viewing members that are not in the Pacific time zone, which after all, the West Coast is the best coast, but you guys can play for the rest of the country. And you can throw your hands up in the air all you want, Tim.
You're going to start already, John?
Well, why not? So I want to welcome everyone to today's Higher Military Live with American Corporate Partners. ACP's free mentoring program connects post 9/11 veterans and active duty and other eligible military spouses with leading industry corporate professionals for customized mentorships. So we have today Colleen, who's the Executive Director for American Corporate Partners, as well as Tim, a Senior Vice President with the organization, and Lucy, the Women's and Military Spouses Program Manager. And we're all here to talk about how ACP can help you find your next career. So thank you all for joining us today. How are you doing?
Thanks so much. Yeah, we'd be better if you remembered that that ACP is in New York City. So the East Coast, I believe, is the best coast. But
I am going to turn my Brooklyn accent on so hard that you're going to be so sad that you.
Tim, I didn't realize you knew how to turn it off. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. And the first thing that I'd like to do is give you guys the opportunity to introduce yourself, and more than just the titles that I shared with everybody at the beginning, tell me about what it is that you do for the organization and how it is that you help the people that American Corporate Partners sponsors through career transition mentorship, and really helps people succeed. So Colleen, if you could tell us, first of all, how it is that you support the career transition of military spouses and service members.
Sure thing. Yeah, so I've actually been at ACP for 11 years. It'll be 11 years on Monday. So I've pretty much worn every hat that there is to wear at a small nonprofit. But I'm involved mainly as the executive director in things like fundraising for ACP, trying to get new corporate partners on board so that we have a steady supply of mentors, working with different installations and the different branches of service to make sure vets know about the program. When we launched our spouse program in 2018, that was something I was really passionate about. My husband's an Army vet, so helping military spouses is near and dear to my heart. And my husband actually went through the ACP program in 2010 when he got out of the Army. So kind of a personal and professional connection to ACP.
That's amazing, and I'm glad to hear that your spouse is an Army veteran, because I was a little bit intimidated, I'll admit it, the fact that we've got Tim Cochran, a former Marine, and Lucy along with us, who is married to a Marine, and so I forgive you both, but I'm glad that we've got a little bit of even representation today.
I'm glad.
Even though there are a couple of other services that aren't represented, at least in this forum. Of course, ACP has the ability to reach out and touch folks from across the services and have mentors that have experience dealing with the services. Tim, if you wouldn't mind, aside from the experience of being a mine detector in Cuba, explain to us about how you really help support American Corporate Partners' success.
Well, thanks, John, and thanks for hiring military for getting this off the ground today and having ACP on. We're blessed to have you guys as great partners and having you and Mike as advocates on behalf of the men and women. And we do not discriminate at ACP. We will allow the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, you name it, and that other group, the Army, into ACP. Yes. I joined ACP 4 years ago. And to be honest, prior to that, I spent over 30 years at the New York Stock Exchange. And as you know, before that, a United States Marine. But the last 4 years have been four of the most rewarding years of my life. The ability to be able to work with the men and women who serve this country, and having a long career on Wall Street opened a lot of doors for me into corporate America, dealing with 2,800 of the biggest companies and brands in the world at the New York Stock Exchange. When I found ACP and saw that, the way the program worked was mostly through corporate America, though we do have citizens who represent and mentor from every single career path you can possibly think of. I thought it would be a great place for me to be able to come in and help grow this organization. And so I work on hand in hand with Colleen on bringing in new business. And that could be a Fortune 500 company, or it could be a small construction company out of Duluth, Minnesota. It literally is across the board. And not to mention our citizens mentors. That could be everything from cops and firemen to educators to FBI. So I wear that hat. And at the same time, I work in outreach. I'm blessed to be able to go and partner up with great organizations like yourselves and, go to base after base across the country virtually and talk to the men and women and get them engaged in this and show them how they can get involved in a life. This is literally life-changing because, as we all know, the best thing in your life is going to be the opportunity to have meaningful employment, and that's what ACP is all about. We're hoping the veteran winds up in a great job, and that's and that's what most people are looking for. So, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And aside from all of the outreach that you do, the fact that you can really offer advice on the best pizza in New York to get us from it, I really appreciate that. That was absolutely the highlight of my visit to New York City a couple of years ago. So
yeah, I can put Portnoy and his Pizza Hunt to shame because, look, unless you've been from Brooklyn, New York, you don't know pizza, people. You're out west, they put pineapples on pizza, John. You put pineapples on sundaes, not pizza.
Okay, so remind me, Tim, we won't get into the debate about whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich or not. So, Lucy, after that fantastic little diversion that we took going into pizza, and I apologize for leading us down that path, Tim. Please talk to us for a moment about your experience with using ACP and being a part of ACP, and how it is that you really help the people that sign up for ACP for that career mentorship they're looking for.
Sure. So I've been here for about 2 years, coming up on 2 years now. And so for me, the biggest part of it is being a social worker, bringing that piece of it in. I'm here to help with our military spouses, with our women veterans, keeping them really engaged, making sure that we are helping facilitate their mentorships. And really making sure that we're connecting them to the resources, keeping them engaged with their mentors, being the valuable asset, kind of that point of contact, that help desk throughout their journey with us here at ACP. Also kind of touching on what Tim said, the outreach piece, getting new military spouses involved in the program and connecting with other organizations. So kind of bringing it all together from those top level like Paulina and Tim, and then all of the OAs, the operation associates who work on the floor to help facilitate these year-long customized one-on-one mentorships and bridging the gap for the programs that I work on. So that's primarily my goal, and it's really rewarding. Like you said, my husband is Marine Corps veteran, so I've lived the lifestyle of that military spouse.
Yeah.
Had 3 kids while he was on active duty. He's out now. And so, I get how difficult it is. So bringing in those pieces and making sure, through the PCSs, through the deployments, through the, those career changes and changing degrees and trying to figure out how to navigate a career while also supporting a service member, bringing all of those pieces in along with my social work background, I think is the most important pieces of what I do on the day-to-day here at ACP.
Yeah, great. And before I go any further, I would like to say I received a direct message after while you were talking, Lucy, and I am directed to state that that Hire Military in no way endorses pineapple on pizza. So I want to throw that out there as we begin. And so the first question, Lucy, Colleen, what I would like to ask, and for all of you to jump in on, what is ACP and what are the programs that American Corporate Partners has to support the military and military spouses as they transition career fields?
Sure. So I can start with that briefly. So, we all know there's 50,000 veteran service organizations out there, but to the best of our knowledge, I don't think there's anyone that does exactly what ACP does, which is make those really important and critical connections to actual people in corporate America who have signed up to specifically help transitioning vets and mil spouses. So it's really an incredible kind of one-on-one opportunity to get that insider information, hopefully while you're kind of in the midst of your transition. But even if you transitioned out 10 plus years ago, we're still here for you. So definitely want to make that clear. But you don't know what you don't know. And why not have somebody in your corner who's helping you make that smooth transition? I'm just thinking back to when my husband got out. I mean, he had literally no idea what he wanted to do. And I think that's pretty common. I think the Chamber of Commerce did a study maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and 85% of vets have no idea what they want to do after the military. So that's really where we come in, is to try to help people figure that out. Ideally connect them with employers who are military friendly, get them hooked up with their mentor. So that way, by the end of that year-long mentorship, they have, ideally a really solid idea of what their career path can look like, what the opportunities might look like for advancement, and somebody in their corner that they can continue to call and lean on for advice, even after that 1 year mentorship has ended. So that's really our bread and butter. We only focus on mentorship, but because we only focus on one thing, we can do that one thing really well. We don't get to the business of, educational resources or VA benefits. It's kind of just, if you want mentorship, we're your one-stop shop for that. And so we've been doing this since 2008. In 2018, we rolled this out for active duty spouses. So that's something that we're super excited about. We have close to 400 spouses in the program now. We have more than 500 spouses who've already finished it. And then on the veteran side, we've had 20,000 vets complete ACP since we've started keeping track of that in 2010. So we have a pretty big reach at this point. We have close to 100 different companies that have partnered with us to provide those mentors. So it's really an incredible opportunity. I mean, Rupert Murdoch himself has even been an ACP mentor. So to try to get that type of advice, I don't know where else you're going to get that kind of access besides working with ACP. So it's kind of us in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so many things came to my mind when you were talking, Colleen. One of the things that I'd like to ask you is, you mentioned how many veterans and transitioning service members have signed up and participated with American Corporate Partners. One of the things that I think is important, obviously salary isn't everything in the world, and there needs to be a not a trade-off, but really a ability to enjoy life, and it goes beyond simply an income. However, that can make strides to helping a service member that's transitioning from the military and their family really enjoy life after they've served in America's armed forces. And there's a statistic that you have, Colleen, that talks to the starting salary of ACP proteges. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So that's something we started delving into a few years ago, is just, yes, that's great that our vets are getting jobs through their mentorships, but where are they working and what do those jobs look like? And so when we just finished our study to look at vets who got jobs in 2018 and 2019, their average starting salary was $86,000. So, I think the average starting salary for somebody getting out of the military in that first job nationwide is maybe $44,000. So we're, well above that. And I think it's really because the mentors are helping that vet figure out what the right career is for them. And hopefully, kind of having those conversations around, like, maybe not taking the first job that comes down the pike because it's not a good fit and it's not, paying what you're worth. So sometimes those tough conversations and like being a little extra patient along the journey can lead to that higher starting salary, not to mention just the fact that the partners that we work with and the partners that you get to be affiliated with by becoming part of ACP, they have phenomenal jobs. I mean, we're doing events every week to connect vets with, whether it's Bristol Myers Squibb or UPS or Morgan Stanley. So we're able to make those connections to companies that actually have, really fulfilling positions that can offer those types of salaries.
Right. Yeah. So Lucy, I'd like to ask you, what do you see as an optimum timeline for a transitioning veteran, or perhaps a military spouse who's established a career for themselves at one duty location and they're getting ready to PCS to someplace across the country, and they want advice on how to make that transition successfully? Because it's I think what I've experienced and what other folks that are in the military and transitioning from the military experience is, we have a timeline, and as great as American Corporate Partners is, the initial agreement is that this is a 1-year relationship between a mentor and a protege, even though like we all know, that relationship frequently continues much longer past that 1-year period. But when do you start? When is it? Should you start as soon as you know that you're going to transition?
I think that it's going to be different for everybody, obviously, but generally we suggest within a year of ETS is probably the best timeline for a transitioning service member. For the spouses, it varies because our spouses have a lot of different goals. So if they're in a career field and they're looking to PCS, again, probably within a year or so of that occurring, so that they can really work on goals leading up to the move or goals leading up to their ETS or EAS. So that they can be prepared, so they can start networking, they can feel out, what the transition is going to look like, what the move is going to look like, what the job field looks like in where they're going to be going, whether that's a veteran, a transitioning service member who will be a veteran and going somewhere else, or a spouse who's going to be relocating. For the spouses, it may look a little bit different because they may be maybe more in the career exploration, which I would say for a spouse, there's probably no wrong time for them to be starting an ACP mentorship, to be quite honest. From your new spouses who are kind of feeling out, what degree do I want to look into? Will these certifications or these degrees help me in the field that I want to go into? All the way up to the spouse of a retiring service member who's thinking about, now's the time for me to focus on my career as my service member gets out, and I will have the time to do that. So I would say it's a little bit different for the two different populations that we have in the program, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And one of the things I want to come back to in a little bit is the support that your staff provides to proteges as they work through the program with their mentor. But in the meantime, Tim, what I'd like to ask you is, how is it that you draw mentors and businesses into American Corporate Partners and draw that interest to provide such a wide variety of mentors available to proteges, no matter what their industry is or the particular job that they hold within that industry?
Sure, John. And it does come from a wide variety of sources, right? It could be, like I say, I'm blessed to have access to the New York Stock Exchange. So I might have a CEO who rings the bell, and I have the opportunity to talk to them and tell them about what ACP does. And let me tell you something, at the highest levels within companies, once they hear the story of ACP, because look, folks, these companies want you and they want to be able to identify you. And so senior leaders hear an opportunity for their people to be involved in a community service program that also helps them identify talent. There's a value add, folks. And so the companies see this as a great opportunity to be able to work with veterans. So that's one of the ways. The other thing is, as Colleen pointed out, we've had over 20,000 successes. We only track meaningful employment, right? So those people, 98%, get this, 98% of the veterans are telling their friends and would recommend this to another veteran. The other thing is our mentors might be at Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, and then when they leave and they go to the next company, they find out that ACP is not represented there. And a lot of times they'll go to their company or they'll reach out to us and say, hey, we don't have this opportunity in our company, and it's I'd love to make that introduction for you. The other thing is the proteges. Our men and women, over 70% wind up with meaningful employment as a result of this program. And when they never forget who got you meaningful employment. There's not a person on the screen who doesn't remember who introduced them to that great job. And so at the end of the day, they're telling their companies, we should be doing this, because not only is it great for them to wind up in a great job, they care about their colleagues, the other veterans who are coming out of the service, and they see it as a great opportunity for their companies to, once again, bring in more veterans so that they have a better workplace. Yeah,
great. And I think what I'd like to add, so first of all, let me back up. For everybody that's watching, please send in your questions. You've got 3 of the most influential people in a premium nonprofit organization providing transition services free of charge to transitioning service members and military spouses and veterans. So ask away. If I can guarantee you that if one of these 3, if there's a small percentage you ask a question they don't know the answer to, they can absolutely find the right person in the organization or in a Fortune 500 company to answer that question. So I think here's our first question from a LinkedIn user that asks, is ACP available for retiring service members? And before I pass that off to you guys, I would like to say for LinkedIn user, adjust your profile settings so that the rest of us that are looking to hire somebody with your particular specialties, we can actually find you, because right now we can't. Your privacy settings are set so tight that a recruiter can't find you, so that none of us can find you. So let me pass that off to you, Lucy.
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of the program eligibility, any post 9/11 veterans are eligible for the program, including our retired service members. And as Colleen, I think, mentioned earlier, even if you're years out from your service, as long as you're a post 9/11 and have served 180 days post 9/11, you are eligible, as well as our active duty spouses, Gold Star spouses. So, definitely get your application in, especially if you're thinking about retiring. That's the opportune time for you to start working with a mentor one-on-one as you prepare.
Hey, John, just to add, look, if you might have 3 years left. Look, nobody knows better than the people in the career path that you're looking to go into than the people who are already doing that job. And jobs and career paths are constantly changing. So if you have 3 years left and you're thinking about taking advantage of the GI Bill or what certifications you're going to need, the time for a mentor is now. So that you're prepared 3 years out to get that great job that's coming down the pike as they're developing it, by talking to people in those organizations, those companies already. So there, back to Lucy's, there is no great time. Yes, the transition veteran who's at 11 months getting ready on that road to come out, they're probably ideal. But mentorship means different things to different people. We pair you up for a year, but I can almost guarantee you're going to have your mentor for your lifetime. Because these folks come into your life, and just like you're coming into their life, they're going to be with you every step of the way. We end the mentorship at a year because we need the mentor to go on to the next veteran. But I'm going on my 4th mentorship, and I still talk to all 3 of my proteges, and they become a part of my life. So remember that, folks. Mentorship means different things. Not everybody's looking for a job. A lot of veterans are coming to us. They're out 3-4 years, and they're looking to get ahead at the job they're already in. Like John said, nobody signs up to be the mine detector repairman in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So all of a sudden, I'm pigeonholed into a technology job. So when I come out, what am I going to look for? Hell, I wound up becoming a stockbroker because of the right place, right time, and the people in my life. But I never dreamed I'd be a stockbroker. That can happen for you also. All you have to do is have the right people. Not only at ACP are you going to get a mentor who's in the career path, but you're going to get somebody like Lucy, and we have over 50 staff. So you're going to have somebody assigned to you helping you make those goals. Look, you could have joined the Marine Corps, drove a truck, and have a marketing degree, but never worked a day in marketing. And hell, you might not ever like being in marketing. And so you need the opportunity to talk to somebody in that role so that you should be a better salesman or something else. Sorry, John. I get on a roll. It's gonna go.
No, I love your passion, Tim, and I think that's the perfect thing to describe everybody that works at American Corporate Partners. It's that passion to help veterans, and I'd like to ask you a two-part question, Colleen. The first one is, if you could please tell us what it is that meaningful employment really means, because hey, if I'm just finishing my first enlistment and I happen to be a mechanic, a vehicle mechanic, meaningful employment when I've got a spouse at home could be any job that will accept me. But that's not really what we're talking about when we talk about meaningful employment, is it? And the second part is, if you could answer Michael's question, that was really, even if someone's been out of the military for a little bit of time, they can still qualify for American Corporate Partners sponsorship, correct?
Sure. So Michael's question, I'll take first because it's easy. Okay. Yes, of course. Anybody who served on active duty for at least 180 days since 9/11 is eligible. So, we see plenty of people who are kind of stuck in a dead end job. They apply to ACP. They've been out for 10 years. We love helping those types of folks. So please apply. But yeah, in terms of meaningful employment, we don't want people to just take the first job because it's a job. We understand in a tough economy, that people might not have that luxury to, be unemployed for too long. So, but ideally we want people picking jobs that have a career path. There's room for advancement. There's benefits. There's coworkers you can learn from, good work-life balance. And those are all the types of things that mentors are here to help with. It's really that's really how we're tracking progress here, is getting these veterans paired up with mentors who can lead them down that path. I mean, I hate to keep picking on my husband, but when he got out, he almost took a job that he plugged his his MOS into a translator and it said he should be a security guard, but he's actually now working on a trading floor at a bank. And that's kind of the difference there. I think, if you, of course, want to be a security guard, that's great. But if you don't, you shouldn't be pigeonholed in that just because you have a particular MOS. So that's kind of what we're here to do, is open people's eyes to opportunities to think about their soft skills. Just because you're a machine gunner doesn't mean you can only, operate, machine guns in the civilian world. Like, there's a lot more to a person than just what they did in the military. And that's kind of what we're here to explore.
Yeah. Awesome. I know that we're coming up on the end of our 30 minutes of scheduled time, and any of you might need to run away to subsequent engagements. But there's a couple of things that I'd like to talk about. The first one is to mention to everybody, we've talked a little bit about timeline and when a transitioning service member should sign up prior to leaving active duty, but one of the things that I'd really like to highlight is Acp Advisor Net. Now, if you go and register with ACP at acp-usa.org, you can, before you start your one-year mentorship, isn't it true that you have this amazing resource of advisors and mentors across the country that people can reach out to? Lucy, I'll throw that one to you.
Yes, definitely. It's something that I think is so important. It's kind of like our own LinkedIn brought to life, if you will, and it's helping connect to advisors. So the same companies and the same organizations that we work with, who we're bringing in our mentors, they're on the Advisor Net site. And the great thing is you can connect with them for informational calls, one-off calls. You can search by geographic location, by industry. You can connect with other veterans. You can post questions. They post articles. The list goes on and on. It's a wonderful site to plug into immediately as soon as you start the ACP process, because the pairing process, is very customized. A real person works with you through that. And so while you're going through that, you can also be connecting with people on Advisor Net and continue on that road for, forever and ever, connecting with people in your industry or your field for advice, outside of your mentorship as well.
That is so awesome. As we say goodbye to everybody, I'd like to give all three of you, Lucy, Tim, and Colleen, the chance to offer some parting shots of wisdom for military spouses that really face a huge, our most disadvantaged unemployment population that ACP serves. And also, Tim and Colleen, really, what would you like to share to our viewing audience about the programs that American Corporate Partners has to offer?
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is to me kind of a no-brainer to take part in ACP because, all the career advice I see is about how you need to build your own personal board of directors. That's kind of a cool catchphrase, but it's true. Even if you're taking advantage of other transition programs, why not have a mentor through ACP? Why wouldn't you want somebody on the inside to give you the tips and tricks so that you don't repeat their mistakes? And also, once you get a job, you're not going to want to go to your boss with every little situation that comes up. So it's great to have somebody outside the company to bounce ideas off of. So I would encourage everybody and anybody to sign up for ACP because we're here to help.
Yeah, listen, I'm just going to bounce right off of Colleen here. Look, there's not a person who's looking on the screen that hasn't sat back and said, geez, I really wish I had a rich uncle who had 10 years in the real world that I wish that I could have been in, and now I got to fight like hell. ACP will give you that rich uncle. ACP will give you that chairman of your board who's going to be dedicated to you for an entire year, an hour a month, to make sure that you wind up in a great job. And look, it's, as Sid Goodfriend, our founder, will say, it's a 60-60 proposition. It's not all about the mentor. You got to bring something to the table. But you've done it. You've got that great foundation. You have served this great nation of ours. And the people who come to ACP, over 4,000 of them currently, are just waiting. I think it's close to 5,000 now, are just waiting to work with you and to help you so that you wind up in meaningful employment. I mean, look, with what's going on in America right now with unemployment unprecedented, you're nuts not to take advantage of this if you're looking for a great job, and it's free. So, John, you guys are great. We see this as a great opportunity, and we're thankful to be able to bring it to your audience here this morning.
I appreciate that, Tim. And Lucy, I'll pass it off to you. And also, if you could kind of talk about one of the things I loved in my personal transition and my experience with ACP was the fact that your operations person really talked to me about what I wanted to have in a mentor. My personal preference was I didn't want somebody who had been a veteran. I wanted somebody who had as much experience as I did in the military, just in the civilian sector. So I think it would be helpful for people to understand the wide variety of mentors that are out there, and how they can choose anybody they want to help.
Absolutely. Them. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and Colleen touched on it, I think right in the beginning, is that we've become experts at facilitating these mentorships over the last, decade plus. And part of that is really figuring out how do we meet the expectations of the participants coming in. And that's human interaction. That's us really taking the time to get to know every spouse, every transitioning service member or veteran who comes in. They're assigned a point of contact here. I've got 50 plus colleagues who do this every day. When that application comes into us, it's routed to a real person, not a machine or a robot. A real person will schedule a call with that individual to get to know them. What does your background look like? What does your education background look like? What field are you interested in? what's important to you. Maybe it's, as you said, maybe you want somebody who is former service, or you don't want somebody who's former service. Maybe, their gender is very important to you, or there are other pieces of, specific pieces of the field that are most important to you, or their education background. We're going to work our hardest. Can we promise that we're going to meet every wicket 100% every time? Maybe not, but we do have a really broad mentor pool, and we have these people who really want to help you. So, we work hard to hand pair everybody. There's not a program or algorithm that's just going to match, John or anybody else, or my husband or Colleen's husband who went through the program, to a random person just because they both are in HR. And that's what, this is, it's really digging into personality and preferences and all of those pieces to make sure it's a good match. And then the follow-up. So we don't just say, here's your mentor, have a great year. That point of contact stays with that pair over the course of the year. They check in with the mentor and the protege monthly, to give them a gentle nudge if they need it, to find out what their goals are, to send them resources, like Colleen said, obviously specific to what we do, to mentorship and professional development, but to make sure that they've got the right resources and recommendations, quarterly activities, things that can help, drive their success throughout the course of the year. So at the end, they reach their goal, whether that's employment or growing in their field or figuring out what they want to do when they grow up, like I was for so long while my husband was on active duty. Yep. It's specific to them. So it's all about what they need throughout the entire process, and having their point of contact, as well as their mentor, who's going to be their sounding board, their cheerleader, the person who's giving them advice. Those aspects all together, I think, is what separates this program from a lot of others and what makes it so successful.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. And so at this point, what I'd like to do is thank both of you. And Tim, I know he had to run off, but the extra time that you gave everybody, for the folks that are watching, continue to ask your questions in the chat box. And I know that we've got some awesome ACP staff that are there helping to answer the questions, and will continue to after we stop this broadcast. But thank you all very much for giving us some insight into the services that are available to transitioning service members, post 9/11 veterans, and military spouses. And I look forward to the next time we have the opportunity to talk with American Corporate Partners, and that'll be on May 6th. We're going to be talking with a mentor and protege, so that everyone can get a viewpoint of what it looks like as a mentor for those that are watching, that are thinking about donating some of their time generously to this great organization, and for proteges, people who want to be proteges that are transitioning from the military, or are getting ready to PCS and they're a military spouse, or their service member is getting ready to separate from the military as well. So thank both of you very much. And with that, have a great day. Goodbye.